Welcome to Night Callers Bigfoot Radio, where I interview researchers and experiencers of the unknown. This is a live show, so I invite you to join in the discussion by typing any questions you have for the host or guest in all caps in the chat, and I will get to them as soon as I can. Keep it clean, keep it kind, and show some love with that like and subscribe. All right, I'm going to bring Evans Bailey on. He is our guest for the night. And you can read his wonderful intro down in the caption below. How are you doing tonight, Evans? So we did have a little bit of a technical situation going on before the show.
Hello.
And so we're a little laggy, but we are going to endeavor to make this show a great thing. So thank you for being on here tonight. I appreciate you sticking through it.
Thanks. I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, of course. So I got to see Evans speak recently at the Kiamichi Mountain Bigfoot Conference, and he gave a fantastic presentation. So if you guys get to see him live, do that. It's a good time.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So you have a lot going on. You have you're part of NOBRO, and there's certain things that you wanted to talk about, tonight as well. But just tell us a little bit about how you got into the topic and how you got linked up with the groups that you're part of. Is he frozen on everybody else's end, or is it just mine?
Here, follow them, something like a Bigfoot creature fishing. So familiar with the stories, and I heard stories from families and friends. And so actually, still having trouble.
Yeah, it's I missed kind of the first half of that. I'm wondering if
You're still there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Are we back?
I don't know. Yeah, let me text you the link, and maybe if I text it to you, it'll go that way. Perhaps. Okay. All right, hold on. All right, sorry everybody. This is definitely how it goes. As you all know, technology is the pits. Okay. I invite you all to join in the chat and do things amongst yourselves. Entertain thyselves. Link would be good. Thank you, Hillary, for being my hype man tonight. You are fantastic. Appreciate you being here. Hi, Pyro. It's Pyro. Everybody, the legend is in the chat doing big things. She came to support me as her daughter, her favorite person in the whole world. The light of her life. Pyro's already acting up in the chat, as he do. All right. It's weird when I don't have you on air, Evans, you are just fine. But as soon as I put him on air, he glitches. It's the curse of Bigfoot podcasts. everywhere. I'm convinced. What up, Brian, my buddy? Okay. I love that for you guys. Thank you for joining, Digger Dog. Digger. All right. Thank you. All right. I guess we will do the things. So I have to say, I have had quite a few Oklahoma people on, and it seems like most of my Oklahoma people have internet problems, and I think it's just all that sky. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. Brian, why are you in Atlanta? And also, is it Atlanta, Georgia, or Atlanta, Texas? Inquiring minds. All right, I'm just going to do this. I'll talk to you guys for a little bit. There we go. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay. What's up, Hellbent Holler? Good to see you here tonight, Jesse or Joe, whomever it may be. I feel so honored when you guys join. Okay. Let's give it another go. Autocorrect is not being nice to me right now. Evans, I'm going to bring you back in. I am not financing you, or whatever autocorrect just said to me. All right.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
We'll
sorry all the technical trouble.
It's all good. We'll see if it starts shaping up. I mean, my goodness. Okay, now tell us about the beer you had with Bigfoot, or whatever you actually said, because I missed all of it.
Okay. No, I was just saying I grew up here in southeastern Oklahoma, and so I'd heard all the stories from family and friends. Even in the newspaper here, there was stories about the Fouke monster because all that was going on there when I was in high school in the mid-'70s. They in the newspaper, and all that was going on over there with the Fouke monster and Momo in Missouri. And we even had a monster. So I had heard about all that. And so much that spring break year, 1977 in March, me and 4 other buddies and my dad, we left McAlester, drove to Fouke, Arkansas, went to what is now the Monster Mart, but it was just a convenience store then, and convinced a farmer to let us stay out there on Boggy Creek in his pasture next to the creek there, and great time, and scared ourselves silly, and did have something walking around our camp that night. back in the woods. We could hear it, and we could hear it walk from one side of the camp to the other, but we never could see it. And so we got a good scare out of it, but we had to leave early because a couple of people got sick. But anyway, that was a lot of fun. And always had a lifelong interest. Get too excited about it till on in 2014, 2012, and Finding Bigfoot came to town and did their Central Oklahoma episode, and they had their town hall meeting at the Express Ranch barn north of Yukon. And so my daughter and I went out there, and we the whole town hall meeting. It went for over 3 hours, and that really sparked. I'm conference. So we were there in 2014. Really interested in it, and just come back for an expedition in 2015. That's where he.
I think I lost you again. Definitely got a little lag going on tonight. Everyone, I'm so sorry. Oklahoma interwebs. This is the Oklahoma interwebs. This is what we have to deal with. Well, I live in Texas now, but okay. Every time I bring you on, it drops your internet to nothing. So we may have to reschedule, my friend. I don't even know if he can hear me.
Okay, sorry about that. Tell me.
Yeah, I've got network connection is 1 out of 10. It's lagging horribly. Oh, it's fine. There are 17 people watching that are having the time of their lives. Yeah, the weather here actually is not doing what it has been doing all week, so I'm actually pretty proud of that fact at the moment. Evans, have you tried, I don't know, slapping the computer or router? It works sometimes. Or it makes you feel better. Either way.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
can you try turning off your
complete signal?
Okay. Can you try turning off your camera option and maybe just doing audio? See if that works, maybe. Although we do want to see you, but okay. Well, it went up a little bit. All right, let's try it.
How's that?
Seems to be okay so far.
Okay.
I think. Okay, last I heard, you were at the Finding Bigfoot Town Hall, and it went for 3 hours.
Yeah, they showed just a snippet of it actually in the episode, just a few of the stories, but there were over 300 people there, and the stories went on for over 3 hours. So it was fascinating. They just used a few for the show, but that really got my interest peaked again, and I decided to try to find a group that was local around Oklahoma City that was doing Bigfoot research, and found a fellow over in El Reno named Kurt Stanley. Kurt had started a group called North Canadian River Project, and Kurt tragically passed away last year, but he was the leader of the group, and with that in about 2015. And we were doing research up and down the North Canadian River corridor from basically around El Reno down through Yukon and then over to the Stinchcomb, northwest side of Oklahoma City. And we were all interested in the HONABI conference, and I found out that they were starting this organization, Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research organization. It would be statewide, and so that's how we got involved in that. And NOBRO is kind of an umbrella. It's a statewide organization, and we have affiliates like North Canadian River Project, Southern Bigfoot Alliance, Brian Terrell and the Red of Enid, and other organizations around the state that are and so that's kind of how we got involved in that. And NOBRO itself, we do have Brian White, the Squatch Ranger, is our webmaster, and set up a fantastic website for us. And some of the things you'll find on there: encounter reports. We provide NOBRO here for folks that are volunteer field investigators, and so when we have a report come in through the mail, then we assign an investigator, or divided up into districts. The state's divided up into districts, and so in each district, and we will contact with them, and if they'd like for an investigation, if there's a site with them, experience that we keep. So from these encounter reports, we keep our own database. This is live, and it's all available, public viewing on our website. The database, we've got over 160 reports in there. And so we do field investigations that way. Sometimes people, though, it's on private property and they don't want us to come out, so we don't push it. Some people want to protect their identity and want to submit their reports anonymously, and we are update that because we understand the situation there. So that's primarily what we do. Although we do our own expedition weekends, and we all do our own research. We research as a group, and then we also research individually. One of my favorite sites is Stinchcomb Refuge, and then some of the sites we have over near El Reno on the river, especially one area we call Area 3. So we do our own expeditions. We go all over the state, usually where there's been some activity together. Last year, Northeast Oklahoma, we had at one time. From there, we had multiple investigations going on in Northeast Oklahoma. And so that was a hot area. So we did expedition in that area. So, we do that sort of thing too. And then the other part of our organization is we do a lot of public outreach programs. We're kind of in the library circuit here in Oklahoma, and we've done programs at libraries all over the state, had fantastic turnout, and it's just amazing the encounter reports that we receive from those, and people see it as an avenue where they can actually feel safe to tell us their story and tell us what happened, their experience. So we've been invited to speak in coffee shops and at the career tech centers, at colleges. So, it's been amazing seeing the turnout and seeing the interest, the level of interest. And so, and of course, we we always try to be a safe place for people to report their encounters, because we understand that they may have tried to tell family or friends or whatever and been made fun of, and we want them to know when they contact us that our investigators have had their own experiences, and so we certainly understand, and we want to listen to their experience and take it very seriously, and then we ask them for advice, and so that's pretty much what our organization is doing.
That's amazing. I know that back in the day, it used to be really taboo to talk about this kind of stuff. And so a lot of people are they're okay with coming forward now, or they're more apt to come forward now because it's less taboo than it used to be, but they still need safe, trustworthy places to come forward. People that aren't going to exploit them or, use their experiences for monetary gain or anything like that. So I'm really glad that you guys are a safe, trustworthy place for them.
Thanks. Yeah, we've seen an interesting trend. We have people calling in or writing in, emailing us with encounters that happened to them as a child or as a teenager, 30, 40, 50 years ago, but now they feel safe telling someone about it. So that's been awesome to hear from them, and the relief. A lot of times the being able to tell somebody, and we do occasionally talk to people that upset because the Bigfoot was the last thing on their mind. They weren't expecting. Always been told these creatures are a joke or a cartoon character or whatever. They're fishing, hiking, camping, hunting, whatever. And there's one, crosses the road or whatever. So all of a sudden it's become real, actually traumatizing. And so, we have a chance to talk with them about that, and even to try to get them some help, because it definitely has.
Yeah, for sure. I tell people that, people kind of make fun of it, but this is something that's not supposed to exist. And so when you have an encounter like that, it changes your life, and it's ended marriages, it's lost people their livelihoods, it's ended lives even. So definitely glad that you guys offer those resources.
Right. And a twist on that I thought was kind of humorous. It wasn't for that family, but I went to a town hall meeting in Noble, Oklahoma, south of Norman, one evening, and I got there late as I had left work late. And a lady came in, sat down beside me, and I could tell she was agitated, upset about something. So when the program was over, I asked her if everything was okay, and she practically yelled at me. She just said, "How do you get rid of these things?" She wasn't fascinated by it. She wasn't scared or whatever. She just wanted to know how you get rid of them, because their family lived on Little River, south of Norman. And this was back when Finding Bigfoot was very popular. And they had a young teenage daughter, and she was just fascinated by that show. So, they lived on real property by the river. She would go outside and howls and all that. Well, she started to get, so then these things were coming up, according to this lady, they were coming up around their house and slapping the house, looking in the windows. And she had a job at OU where she had to leave for she worked in food service there, so she had to leave at like 5 a.m. to go to campus. And she was afraid to go out the door because as soon as she'd go out the door to her car, then they would whistle from the woods, they would whoop, they would do tree knocks, all that kind of thing. So, and actually one morning when she got in her car and started, they had a long driveway down to the highway. There was one standing at the end of the driveway near their gate. She didn't know what to do then. She didn't want to get out of her car and confront it. She just wanted to know how to get rid of them. She didn't care anything about them other than how do you get rid of them. So I thought that was kind of interesting perspective on it.
I've definitely had people ask me the same thing. They weren't excited about it. They weren't, they wanted to know, how do I get them to go away? I don't want them. How do I get them to go away? So
Right.
what did you tell her?
Well, you went through the usual thing about putting out lights and trail cameras, things like that, the motion sensor lights. Never did hear if any of that worked. Of course, they didn't want their daughter to do any more of the make any more calls or wood knocks or anything like that to stop attracting attention. But and it could have been that the teenage daughter might have been an attraction also, why the Bigfoots were hanging around once they discovered that. So very interesting. But so I'm hoping that some of that worked for them.
Yeah, definitely. I think either they got eaten or it worked. So we'll take the positive spin. It worked. They got rid of them, and then they just never wanted to reach out to you guys ever again. So
I did hear that she told her story at the campfire at HONUBI conference. I didn't get to hear it, but so I guess they survived.
That's good. I mean, that's good. I love that they're, like I said, I love that you guys are a resource for people like that. I met a lot of people at the HONUBI conference this last time that I was thankful that they would share their story with me as well. So
oh yeah, it's amazing. A great place for interaction with researchers and people that are experienced.
Yeah, absolutely. I will be back this year, so if I don't see you before then, I will see you there.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, first weekend of October, Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Yep. So.
Yep, which I'll definitely be promoting that beforehand, everybody, just so y'all know. So I know, like I said, you had some things that you wanted to talk about tonight. So if you want to kind of just keep going, or I can get to some questions, I will let your choice, dealer's choice.
Sent some pictures of some weird stuff that we found. Pictures of most of our group there, that sort of thing. So if you want to run through those photos, I'll be happy to provide commentary.
Yeah, I'm worried that it's not going to let me, like, if I do that, I'm going to lose you. So.
Oh no.
Yeah. So usually whenever I pop up a presentation on here and run through the pictures, it tanks the internet. And so I don't want to lose you on here, but you guys can go to my Facebook page, and those photos are on the promo for this show. All of those are in the slide. So let me see. We can try. Hold on. Let's just see if it works.
Well, I might just talk about some of them and see, and then whenever they find the pictures, they can.
Maybe try that. Let me just see if it'll let me. I'll do it. But I don't think it's gonna let me. Oh my goodness. Nope. I'm going to keep trying. Okay. But just, yeah.
Okay. Well, of course, one of the things we love, we always like to find footprints. And at Oklahoma City, we have found some really strange prints. We usually, actually during the winter, and I don't know if that's just because a lot of the vegetation is down, so you can see things easier, or maybe there's too much human visitation summertime and it's fairly quiet out there.
Yeah.
There's a couple of areas where there's a lot of folks that visit from the public or walk their dogs or jog or whatever, but a lot of the refuge is so we try to get into those areas. But we found some really strange footprints. Photo in the pictures there. And it looks almost like a three-toed track, a three-toed print with very sharp toes. And what that reminded me of was some of the Blackburn's books and some of the historical information from the Boggy Creek area, from the Fouke, Arkansas monster, was that there were a series of three-toed tracks found there. And so this, and other places too, I've heard, reports of. So finding that print was kind of strange. So don't know what to make of a single print that had the three almost claw-like toes.
I was going to ask about that one and ask what you thought about that one, because I've heard a lot of different things said about things like that, like so that it was an anomaly. Words, English words are fun, but I've heard that it's just a mutation. What are your thoughts on things like that?
Well, I think that's possible. Also, we've been able to kind of piece together what we're thinking in that area along the North Canadian River. There might be a few small family clans, or maybe one family clan and a few other individuals, creatures. Maybe it would be the result maybe of inbreeding, something like that. I've thought maybe possibly, there's a lot of hunting and trapping that goes on up and down the river. It's possibly maybe one stepped in a trap, lost some toes. I don't know. We're just theorizing, but that particular print was found on a very rainy day. We were the only ones in the park, and it was a good print in the mud. As much as we studied it, I don't think it was a hoax. We found other footprints as well. In fact, a nice trackway, but that had a very large step, or what do you call that in between the step? Stride, and 14-inch prints. This one was in a different area, but it was extremely muddy that day. Had been a wet period of time there, and our thoughts were that it probably was not a result of hoaxing. But anyway, that's just some of our thoughts on that particular print. We found some other very interesting prints out there. Just last winter, we had a real dry spell, and the marsh out there actually had dried up. And just accident, we went to look where the marsh had dried up, where it had been an open pool of water, and there were footprints all over the place, huge footprints. We measured one at 21 and several at 18 inches, and there were smaller prints also. But what was interesting was inside the prints, what we theorized happened was that as the water, it was surrounded by very tall cattails, and when the cattails begin to deteriorate in the fall, fuzz, all that brown fuzz off of the top, and that had in that area, and so everywhere that they had actually pushed the fuzz down into the mud and made this little copy of their print in that fuzz. And so you could almost peel it out like a sheet of paper, where the pressure had cattail seed into like a mat. And so that was some very interesting looking footprints we found out there. But it looked like maybe as the water had gone down, gotten more and more shallow, they were out there catching what fish were trapped, and then the freshwater mussels, anything that they could find in the mud out there.
Interesting. Hillary said, "Don't they really like to eat the cattail shoots?"
Yes, I'm sure they take advantage. I'm sure they're omnivorous and take advantage of any type of food source like that. And cattails are just in innumerable supply out there.
Absolutely.
They're everywhere. And we also in that found some huge some places on there's that footprint. Yeah, and we found some places where there were like trails made through the cattails, huge wide trails all through the cattails. So it felt like they were probably coming in there at night and going back and forth. It's almost like they would stay upriver during the daytime and at night come into the park and on the areas where people may sometimes be, or and then taking advantage of those areas at night.
Yeah. So going back, I think somebody, Digger Dog said three-toed human style or reptile style.
Well, that's true. You can see the big toe there, but the other toes look very sharp. Whether they just
I've never met a three-toed human, so I can't really speak to that, Digger Dog. I'm so sorry.
But you can see the nice wide. You don't see an arch in that footprint there. You see a nice wide print, and I'm sorry I don't have measurement on that.
It's all good. All right. I have a lot of different things here that you sent, so you tell me, keep skipping or
no, that's good right there. So this is some structures that we found on some private property in Rogers and Mays. They're right on the Rogers and Mays County line between Claremore and Pryor. And since then, that property owner has become one of our investigators. But he was a bow hunter all of his life, and that particular season, which I believe was 2022, he had been on this property over 300 acres. He had been there since and had bow hunted it all of his life. But he started noticing just that particular fall. He started noticing these weird structures and things like that. So, on the picture on the left there, a huge, some type of structure, very tall pieces of trees, and then one of our field investigators there, Jody Chisholm from Pryor, she is staying there where there's an X formation across a deer trail in the woods there. And the person that lived there, Derek Fraley, one of our investigators, he had never seen anything like that on this property before. So he contacted us, wanted to look at it and see what we thought. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this was a field investigation there. We've spent several days out there looking around the prints. Also, Derek and his son were yelled at when they were down at a pond fishing there one evening. There's just been a lot of activity on that property.
Interesting. Yeah, I've seen both of those type of formations in the woods a lot, and I know that you guys probably did your due diligence and went to go see, and make sure that it couldn't happen naturally. That's kind of my first thing that I do is let's go see if this happened naturally. But generally find that they aren't, that it's they're interwoven and just stuck in there real good. So
right, yeah, like the structure on the left, you could tell that those pieces had been dragged from somewhere else and placed there.
Yeah.
Now, of course, Claremore did have the terrible tornado that hit last year, and it actually did hit this property, and it's very torn up now. So it would be hard to try to determine, what's tornado damage and what's other. But we are very interested this winter to see if there's any continued Bigfoot activity out there.
No, of course. I've actually heard a few reports out of the Claremore area, so I'd definitely be interested to see if you guys get anything further out of there. As Brian says, Osage County has a long history of Bigfoot activity. Long.
Right.
All right. There we go.
Okay. So this was part of a trail. You know, everybody always says, well, what about trail camera? How come there's never trail camera pictures? How come there's, so this was actually part of a trail camera photo that was sent to us from north of McAlester in Pittsburgh County, just about 2 years. The property owner, and this was on private property, had a deer feeding station. They were hunters and all that. They had their station there, and they put trail cameras on their bait stations just to see what's using that. And so along the edge, just barely on the photo of the trail camera photo, they sent it to us. What does this look like to you, or what are we looking at here? And so we do have a copy of the original trail camera photo.
Hold that. Nope.
But anyway, okay. Well, yeah. That. So anyway, but the family, we asked them if they wanted us to come out and do an investigation, and they said no. We're just interested of what you think about this photo. So we did look at the photo, enlarge it. We used some different light filters, and this was the best. On the right here, this was the best profile picture that we could come up with. But sloped back brow ridge, you see the deep set eyes.
Right.
You can see the nose there, and it looks like a lot of whiskers on the chin, that sort of thing. Yeah. So we thought that was a pretty interesting photo. Now the one on the left here, the photo on the left here, is actually a still frame from a FLIR video that was shot with a thermal FLIR years before that at our Area 3 site in Canadian County, north of El Reno, on some private property. And two of our investigators, Kurt Stanley and Chris Ramsey, were camped out there for the night. And they felt like they were being approached. And so they started looking around with the FLIR, and sure enough, they was a video of that later. But this was a profile from the FLIR camera of that was approaching them. And so when I first saw it, of the Pittsburgh County trail camera photo. So when you kind of compare those, Ryan White put this together for me. When you compare the still photo there with the trail camera photo, it's amazing how that profile looks similar.
Definitely. I found the original, by the way. Hold on. There you go. With the profile on the right. Is that the original?
In the middle, you're seeing the corn for the bait. And then if you look along the very right margin, you see that profile of that face, and just something sticking out there at the bottom, looking toward the bait station there. Yeah.
So that there on the right is this.
Yeah, is that.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where we're using a filter on that. Pictures before that showing a deer was being a small mammal of some kind. We couldn't tell if it was a raccoon or whatever was also visiting it. And then later on, this shot a few minutes later. So what we think was that the creature was definitely a bait station, possibly hunting the deer or the small game. Now, brings up the discussion of, they usually try to avoid trail cameras. It could be that he was trying to avoid it, but he got caught just barely in the edge of the photo.
Mm-hmm. It seems like it, yeah.
And we had we put this on the NOBRO page and asked for comments and comments, but one of the viewers actually sent us a drawing where they fit, because we measured the height of that head here that were in the previous photos. It looked like the head was about 4 feet. So we thought, well, 4 feet, that's, for that large of a face, something's weird. But actually, the viewer said, well, what if he's crouched down? What if he's on all fours? So
yeah,
I thought that was very interesting. So is this the face? Is this, is this the profile face Bigfoot? But that's an awfully interesting looking face.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting photo for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good capture, and I like that you have the comparison to a different capture on there. That's very interesting. We had a quick couple questions for you. Frankie Too Sweet wanted to know, there we go, any stories or encounters from Fort Sill, Oklahoma?
Yes, the historical ones, and then several reports that we've heard of, and we've done investigations down toward that area, especially in the Anadarko area, Riverside Indian School area, casino. It was time investigation at the casino, and we actually had once the the casino management knew that we were there. We had asked permission, mainly because some of their people had been telling us reports about that and raiding the dumpsters and all that. And we were there. We actually had people from inside the casino coming outside and telling us their encounter stories from all around that area. And even the security officers from the casino came out and told us the experiences they had had. So it was just fascinating. And they told us, well, you need to go down to the powwow grounds. And we said, well, we really don't have permission to go down there. They said, oh, we'll take you down there. And so they said they always hang out at the powwow grounds. So yeah, just all around that area, the Fort Sill area, the Wichita Mountain, we do get reports from that.
Okay. Awesome.
Gracemont. I was trying to think of other areas down there. Gracemont, Binger, Coger, and all down through that Washita River basin there. It's a very active area.
Awesome. So I have a question about this slide.
Oh, yes.
And I believe it might be the same question. If not, then we get two stories. But Brian would like to know,
okay,
can you please grace us with this story about the giant fecal matter that you found?
Yeah, we were out on Area 3, which is north and west of El Reno on the river, North Canadian River, doing an investigation in the wintertime. And check the sandbars in the river. There's some large sandbars there, and the river was very low at this time. It's out in the middle of the river on a sandbar. So we walked across there and couldn't believe it. But that is some scat, I guess you'd call it. But altogether, that was over 22 inches long and about 3 inches in circumference there. Just a massive pile of scat. And just a few feet from it was a pile of which was definitely not nearly that large. But what was weird was there were no footprints around. So, where that came from or what, but it would take a fairly large animal to do something like that, fairly large creature. So we just thought that was interesting. We talked about collecting it. but no one wanted to volunteer to put that in their freezer at home. Didn't really have anywhere to send it, because we had checked on DNA testing and it was very expensive. And so anyway, we didn't collect it. We'd also heard a horror story about some Bigfoot researchers up north who had collected a scat sample, and the person that collected it came down with some kind of weird virus and was in the hospital. And so we were a little reluctant to mess with it too much. But what was weird, there was no footprints around. The sandbar was completely smooth. So have no idea how it got there.
It very clearly rode the coyote in there. They had a session and then it rode the coyote out. That's, yeah.
I don't know, but something took a tremendous there. Yeah. And we found that in conjunction with other evidence that we found that day. Squatch Ranger Ryan White has documents our field research, and so he's got a video just with an incident of. So yeah, that was a interesting find.
It seems like it. I've had. I can say that at some point in my life growing up, we had scat in the freezer at some point. So there's just not a whole lot of people on the face of the earth that can say that, and definitely not say it without being weird. But Luke Gross actually, he found a scat sample, and it was so horrible. He put it I think he put it in a Ziploc, in a Folgers can, in a Ziploc, and it was so bad still.
Wow.
That he took it home and he put it in the freezer. Wow. And his wife said, "No, I do not care if it's actual Bigfoot poop. It is not staying in this house." So he had to get rid of it. So it was that bad. So I wouldn't doubt if that's the same brand of poo that made that other researcher sick, because it's got to be.
Very understandable.
Yeah.
It's had quite an odor. It wasn't fresh in there too many days, but with the cold weather, the smell wasn't as bad, but it was.
Yeah. When it comes to evidence collection, I think I'll just let NOBRO be the foremost evidence collectors of the fecal matter. I'll pass. So.
Yeah.
I will pass. Okay, so this next slide, can you tell me a little bit about this one?
Okay, that's the still photo from the FLIR footage from the FLIR video that Kurt and Chris shot on Area 3. That's the side profile view of whatever it is. It's a humanoid-looking creature creeping up. There's kind of a berm there running across the photo, and so it's down in this I guess we call it a slough or whatever, with it's just the head is sticking up over looking at them at the campsite's down near the river there. So this was the profile shot, an enlargement of that profile shot that we were looking at compared to the trail camera photo just a few minutes ago.
Okay. Yeah. So that there one. Gotcha.
Yeah. The one on the left is the enlargement from that still camera or still photo.
Gotcha.
From the video. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our FLIR scout actually took some video there.
Okay. Hillary said it looks like Dogman. How do you feel about that?
I've told our group that if I ever run into a Dogman on one of our outings,
okay. I feel that same way.
Bigfoot is one thing, but Dogman, I don't want to. And of course, we deal with a lot of the tribes, and we have a lot of tribal members in our organization, and Dogman is considered it's a spiritual in them, as well as Bigfoot, but it's considered evil, and so they don't handle Dogman very well. They don't even speak of it.
Yeah. Interesting. Just so you know, the scat that was in our freezer as a child growing up was collected from the same area that you collected your scat. So just
Really?
FYI.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So the legend herself chimed in to validate my childhood trauma. That's very nice of her.
Wow, that's excellent, Lori. Yeah. Fascinating. Well, that just kind of helps validate.
Yeah.
That's a very active area.
Definitely. There was another print here. I'm gonna pop this up real quick because I think this might have been the one you were talking about. That's the poop. That one, is that the cattail print or is that a different one?
Yes, that's one of the prints from the cattail area.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Huge. Yeah, huge.
Well, I'm glad I could pop these up. Better late than never, right? Better late than never.
Yes, that's great. Yeah.
Okay, we had another question. What kind of activity did Evans experience at the last spring NOBRO campout? Which I'm bummed because I think I was supposed to go to that one. Oh.
Okay. Yeah, Boggy Depot, and I think I have some pictures there from Boggy Depot, which is down near Atoka, Oklahoma, southeast corner. And there's actually 2 boggy creeks in Oklahoma, as well as the famous one over in Arkansas. But Oklahoma has the Muddy Boggy Creek and Clear Boggy Creek. And there's a place down there called Boggy Depot. It's historically a very important area. A lot of history to that area with the Choctaw Indians and Cherokee. No, I'm sorry, Chickasaw. That area was actually a post during the Civil War. There's actually some Confederate soldiers buried there at the cemetery at Boggy Depot. It was a supply area, and also was a stop for the stagecoaches and the Pony Mail service. So anyway, there's a long history of Boggy Depot, which is right on Muddy Boggy Creek, and that has been a state park and a state historical area for a long time. Now it's operated by the Chickasaw Nation, but there's a picture of the most of our Bigfoot of our NOBRO team there when we were at the Honolulu conference a couple of years ago. So a lot of our folks there. But so anyway, so we were camped down there for our spring expedition this year, and my tent and some other members of ours, Chris Ramsey, Charlotte Copeland, were camped in our tents down near the fence line, and they were approached several. They walking around their tent, sniffing at their. They actually had one of their little dogs with them in the tent, and felt like maybe the creatures were very interested in that little dog, and so kept coming around sniffing. And in my tent, the problem I had was the rock throwing. They just kept throwing rocks at the back of my tent, and a couple of times there was an oak tree behind my tent. A couple of times they dinged a pretty big rock off of that oak tree. So it was kind of unsettling. So it was very, very interesting experience. Didn't get a lot of sleep.
No, I bet not. I don't know. I have a personal theory that juveniles like to hang out and just interrupt sleep all night, and just mess with you.
Yeah, they were definitely messing with us. So this is a picture of our group this was our second camp out to Boggy Depot. So this picture was taken a couple of years ago. First time we visited Boggy Depot in the fall. And you see Brian Terrell there on the left.
We see the Brian.
He's got a very interesting story. Yeah, you see interesting story about chicken pot pie. So you'll have to ask him about the chicken pot pie story from Boggy Depot. So
I
had something got pie.
It wasn't Brian?
No, it wasn't Brian. He had left it. He had left it on the grill. Left the pot on the grill overnight. We'd eaten so late that it didn't feel like cleaning up, so he just left it there. And during the middle of the night, something actually took the lid off, scooped out a bunch of the chicken pot pie. But what's weird is it put the lid back on. So we didn't discover it till the next morning when he finally said, I guess I better clean this mess up. He took the lid off, and you could see where fingers had gouged down into the chicken pot pie and had eaten a bunch of it and gotten some of the charcoal ash and things in there. Some during the middle of the night. We had an audio recorder going, and we actually have audio of the thing taking the lid off, setting it aside, and then putting the lid back on. So very strange.
That's interesting. I would have been doing a finger check on everybody to see if someone was sleepwalking and eating chicken pot pie. That's just me.
I sure wish we could have got some video of that. We had a trail next to that the night before, but didn't get any activity around the pavilion, around this picnic pavilion where we had our cooking station set up. So I took the trail camera down, and then that night, when there was no trail camera there, is when it got into the food, which I thought was interesting. So we have video.
Yeah, that's about how it goes every single time. And now you know to leave your trail cam up if you guys are gonna have chicken pot pie left out, especially if I'm around, because it won't be Bigfoot getting into it. It'll definitely be me. Definitely.
Right. We were trying to blame each other, but nobody fessed up. So
Brian said, "I'm a great cook. What can I say?" So
that's
at least
right.
he's humble.
He is a great cook. Yeah. We have lots of great cooks. We usually gain weight on our camp out.
I'm really sad I missed it. I was invited. Jody was kind enough to invite me to go, but I had a prior obligation that weekend, so I couldn't make it. But if the invite's still there, I'm going to make the next one for sure, especially if you guys cook, because MREs only get you so far. If
we've got several fans. We never go hungry. We might not find Bigfoot, but we never go hungry.
So I have a question. I would like to know, everybody kind of has their favorite thing that they're really looking for when they're researching. Some people focus more on audio. Some people focus more on tracks or, just evidence collection. What would you say for you personally? What would you say is the focus of your research?
Well, I would say I really love finding footprints. But then I do a lot of audio. The only problem with audio is, I love the audio, especially when we catch some really cool stuff. And if they'll go to the evidence page on our website, there's a lot of good audio and video and FLIR video. But the problem I find with audio is, you have to sit and listen to all of it. I've tried using, I have
Audacity.
Sony sound. I'm trying to think of the name of the program, Sony Soundwave or something like that, on my computer that analyzes audio. And I can go through and pick out the peaks and listen to the peaks. But I find that if I don't listen to all of it, I miss a whole lot because there's things taking place in the recorder that I miss if I don't listen to all of it.
Yep. Yeah.
So
definitely.
I think audio for me, but our whiz with the video camera and Ryan and Brian, and they do all the documentation for our but yeah, with me it's footprints and audio.
Okay. All right. How did you is that how you decided that was kind of your focus? How did you come to that's where it's at for you?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's, everybody has the equipment that they can afford. And so we just bring a a menagerie of equipment. We have folks with FLIR, night vision equipment. We have those that have audio recorders, and then Brian and Ryan with the video recorders and that sort of thing. So everybody just puts our equipment together, and we just share what we have, and that's just kind of what each person uses their equipment, and that's their responsibility.
Yeah. What's your standard process when you do find a footprint or a track?
Generally measuring it, photographing, and of course what's really cool now is the 3D apps that you can get on your phone, and you can actually scan the footprint, and it will give you measurements, width, depth, and it gives you in a 3D version that also you can rotate. Scaniverse is an app that I like to use, and it's right there on your phone. So that way you don't have to carry so much plaster, and water and things like that gets very heavy. So that's been one of the most cool innovations, has been the 3D scanning apps. But yeah, if the we try to take good photographs and video of it, and if it's casting worthy, then we'll definitely have materials with us.
Awesome. Speaking of apps, any other apps that you recommend that help in your research besides the scanning app?
Well, the GPS is very helpful, the Google Maps and that sort of thing. I'm not thinking of anything else that we really use that much, but anyway, that Google Maps has been most helpful for me.
That works. One of my favorites is the Merlin Bird app, because it identifies all the birds around you. So it's great whenever you're hearing something and it's not picking up that it's a bird. That's always good, good feeling.
Right.
You're like, all right.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep. So I'm going to open the floor for questions for Evans. I appreciate very much everybody's questions so far, everybody joining. Show my mods some love and hit the like and subscribe, because they have been asking so very nicely for you to do so. Is there anything else that you want to cover while I wait on these questions to roll in?
Yeah, there was just one other thing. If they will go to the evidence page on our website, if they'll scroll down, it starts with footprints, and they'll scroll down. There's some really cool footprints there, but there's some audio, and then down there's some FLIR video, and there's a FLIR video that we took on Polecat Creek when we were doing an investigation. We've done 2 investigations at Hayburn Lake, southwest of Tulsa, and lots of activity up there. But there's some FLIR video that we captured on Polecat Creek one night from a bridge there, looking upstream, and there's a tree peaker. And we actually had 2 people, myself and Tom Crabtree, each had our FLIR units with us. And so you can see from 2 perspectives of this tree peaker up the creek, upstream on the creek, watching us as we film from the bridge. When we go, we try to go lights out. We try not to carry flashlights, use bright lights or anything. If we use anything, it'd be red light or blue light, and try not to we try not to light up the woods when we go. So we're trying to be quiet, or to be non-invasive, as far as carrying like a million candle power spotlight or something like that. We try to be sensitive to them and not use the bright lights. So it looked like this creature was very interested in what we were doing there on the bridge.
No, I'm sure that's pretty awesome. Did you guys do any offensive anything, any calls, any way to engage it, or did you just observe?
We have ducks and a few calls. We've done some call blasting before, mixed results, but we try not to go tearing, chasing through the woods. We don't do that.
Okay.
We don't do a lot of hollering and all that sort of.
Good.
Most of the time, we just try to set up an observation post in a good area and just listen and and try to act like we're normal campers or whatever, and see if we can attract attention.
Yeah. Oh.
We've had folks play musical instruments and things like that. So, we just try to get them interested in us.
Good. Yeah, that's kind of my MO as well. It's kind of they already know I'm there. I can imagine if some naked monkeys showed up in my living room and started screaming at me, I might just not engage with them either. So I try to just hang out, let them come to me for sure.
That's our philosophy as well.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Now we'll drive roads and look with the FLIRs and night vision. We will go on trail hikes at night and go through the woods, with night vision and FLIR and audio and all that. But we try to be as less intrusive as possible. And like I say, we don't go waving around bright lights and things like that.
Hooting and hollering in the woods.
Right. Except for when one of us just about stepped on a copperhead. So that there was some whooping and hollering then.
As there should have been. I've definitely had my experiences with you're supposed to be being quiet. Like we've gone blackout and been quiet and everything else in the woods, and then just you get that startle moment where the jig is up. Brian said he tried to do the beatbox, but it did not work. Nothing happened. I cannot imagine why that was unsuccessful.
Now, one interesting thing that we tried, we did a stakeout on the old Highway 81 bridge, abandoned bridge over the river near El Reno, and Ryan White set up a call blasting station. We actually broadcast a powwow, because we're just a mile to the Concho Cheyenne Arapaho Reservation, and they have a lot of powwows, and there's a lot of stories from that tribe of them visiting the powwows. So they're very familiar with that music, and so we tried call blasting a recording of the powwow. Not sure that we got any great results, but however, we did that night have something in the brush in the river watching us. We got that on night vision video. So I think it attracted their curiosity, and they were wondering why what was going on there.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of reports of people playing Indian flute music, things like that, drums, and having activity. I've heard quite a few success stories with that. I've never personally done it, but I have heard success stories with that for sure.
Yeah, I think we'd like to try that some more.
Yeah. Have you ever had a clear Class A sighting?
Yes.
Is one of the questions from the chat from my buddy Greg.
Yep. Yes, I sure did. My brother was lucky enough we got to experience that together. We were on a logging road in the Kiamichi Mountains early summer of 2015. We were actually on an expedition with Kiamichi Mountain Adventures out of the Honabi conference, and we actually saw one cross the little logging road there, my brother and I. Yeah, it was, I would say it crossed at a low water crossing. So trying to judge the height, but I would say it was between 6 and 7 feet. It was very skinny. It was very hairy. And it was thin. It did have it had the sagittal crest, but it almost looked like it had a mohawk. The hair was kind of sticking up wild. It was real gangly. It moved real fast. I mean, it was just like step across the road, it was gone. But you know, my brother and I got the impression that it was maybe a juvenile, a teenager. You know, when we looked at it, we just got that impression that it was a young one, because it wasn't big and massive like Patty or anything like that, but very thin and wiry looking, solid black.
Interesting. That's what I was going to ask. Was it more like it was sick, or it wasn't developed? Was it like a basketball player build, like a long, slim build?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very slim, very almost skinny. I don't think it didn't appear to be sick or anything. I mean, it moved fast. It moved very quick. I just think it kind of gave the impression that it was a teenager. It just hadn't filled out yet, hadn't grown up or whatever. But it peeked out at us. That's what caught our attention. It peeked out and then it stepped across, and that's what grabbed our attention. So yeah, and when you said sickly, one of the encounter stories that was told at the Finding Bigfoot town hall meeting there in Yukon was from a young tribal member from Concho, from the Cheyenne Arapaho tribe, and she, in fact, at a powwow, and you know, powwows go all night long. She was told by her family to drive into town and buy more food, because they have, you know, community feeding and all this at the powwows. Everybody just shares food and all that. So they'd given her the assignment to go into town and buy more food. So she's driving out, and she said there was one walking down the road, and it didn't seem to pay any attention to her at all. It never looked at her. It looked down, but she said it looked emaciated. It looked like it was sick. It looked like it didn't care anything about what was going on. It just, she said she just got the impression that something was wrong with it. And she drove right by it, and it never acted like it knew she was there at all.
Interesting.
So I thought that was interesting. But she said it was extremely thin, almost looked, you know, like I said, emaciated. So that was interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, you have to wonder about the sick ones, whether they're stick closer to civilization for ease of food or, you know, resources, or if they go farther away from civilization because their defenses might be down. It's interesting.
Right.
I'd love for somebody to compile that.
There was a tribal member there who was part of our group. She also sadly passed away a few years ago. And you might have known Lucille Bear. Did you know Lucille?
I don't think so.
But she was very active and involved. But anyway, she was telling us that there were families assigned in the tribe to feed these creatures so that they wouldn't bother. You know, the families that lived down along the river, they were assigned to put food out for these creatures by the elders so that they wouldn't bother a lot of the rest of the tribe. Or, you know, that's where the casino footage was shot. Lucky Star Casino there at Concho is where the casino video came from back in 2010. And so, you know, I wonder if them eating out of the dumpsters, eating out of the grease pits, that they picked up human diseases, and that might have been what, you know, or being fed human food or whatever, that they had somehow contracted, you know, our type of viruses and things like that, and that's what made it sick.
No telling. I mean, there's no telling, because I can imagine their diet and their systems are probably not made to put up with preservatives and such. That's interesting. But, you know, for going back to the oral histories of the Native Americans, they would, the Cherokee specifically, would put food and things at the edge of their territory for the Sasquatch, so that the Sasquatch would not come eat their babies, was kind of the oral history of that tribe, at least. So it's interesting to me that those tribal elders told you that that's a continuation.
Right. And the Caddo tribe over at Binger does the same thing. I don't know if they still do that to this day, but we have experiences from them where they actively fed these creatures in order to kind of keep them from causing trouble. So, yeah. And they said when they didn't feed them at certain times, they would come up to the community building there and pound on the door. So they definitely were used to being fed.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I just wonder how many people are doing that and just we don't know about it. And what
Right.
happens when you stop, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. All right, we have time for one last question. You guys in the chat, make it really good. No pressure. No pressure. While we wait, do you have, aside from the Honubby Bigfoot Conference, do you have any other events coming up that you're speaking at this year?
I don't think we have anything else lined up for this year. Usually we start getting requests, a lot of requests from the libraries for the summer reading. Their summer reading events. And then, of course, around October, we get tons of requests because, it being around Halloween, that sort of thing. And then we, like the last year we spoke at the Bigfoot conference at Heavener Runestone Park. And, of course, then recently at the Tallahena Bigfoot conference through the Bigfoot Museum there. And so what we usually do as far as no interested in becoming a field investigator, no matter what part of this, we will meet with you at the Honubby conference, get to know you a little bit, do an informal interview, and at Honubby, and actually go through field investigator for our law enforcement or former law enforcement, as far as learning how to deal with what questions to ask and that sort of thing. And so we actually do go through some training, and then they'll shadow and do an investigation. So before we actually send people out in the field. So that's kind of how it works.
Yeah. No, that's good. I love that they at least get kind of a they get an introduction and then get a mentor until they are ready to be kicked out of the nest to go find Bigfoot. So I love that. That's good. All right. Well, I don't have any more questions from the chat, so I am gonna go ahead and let you get back to finding Bigfoot and educating people about the Bigfoots. And thank you so much for coming on tonight, Evans. And I'm really glad that we were able to continue to have this interview.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Appreciate the invitation. I enjoyed hope to see folks at the Honubby conference this year.
Yep, absolutely. All right, you guys go follow them on Facebook, check out the website, check out his evidence page. And if you guys have any questions, reach out to them. Absolutely. And I am going to...
Our email addresses are on there.
One more time. I think I lost him. Well, it was a good fight, guys. It was a good fight. All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here tonight. I very much appreciate all the support. While you guys were liking and subscribing and showing all the love, you got me over the hump to the next 1,000 on my subs for YouTube. Very much appreciate that. I'm not OCD, but come on, uneven numbers, right? So I very much appreciate you guys being here. Be sure to drop a comment. Let me know who you want to see on the show next. And I will have another show for you